spins back to a left-hand dribble off a Booker pick into the lane, hangs high, and scores it. Oh, a jetpack on the back of run. Inbound to Trey Burke, and he laid it up and in.
Hi, this is Rodney Hood. We're ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this. Jazz basketball is on the air.
It is tip-off for the 2nd of November. How about that? 8:48 in the morning, Mountain Time. I'm recording this. I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA Insider. You can follow me on Twitter at @LockedOnSports. You can follow me on Snapchat, and the Snapchat things we're doing at DLock9. You can follow me on Instagram at DLock09. Google Plus, it's the Locked Up Sports community that rocks and rolls, and it's absolutely fabulous. And I hope you've been able to take a part of that. It's all around for you. We've got a good set of stuff here for you. Here's the plan today. The first part of the plan is that we'll run through the NBA 5 and what took place around the league. I have a bunch of notes. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on. We'll take a quick scan at some. Actually, we'll save that for tomorrow because we got a lot of stuff. Then I was trying to prepare the show and figure out where in the third quarter I wanted to highlight things. And you know what I decided is let's just rewatch portions of the third quarter together. It's the best the Jazz have played all year. It's probably the best they've played in many years. And we can look at it. I don't know who Indiana is right now. I do know Philadelphia is awful, and so it was hard to take a lot of legitimacy out of the win against Philadelphia. But you just don't beat teams by 28 points and a half of basketball very often and hold them to 27 points. And we saw what made the Jazz so terrific in that game and why there are high hopes for this team. So I figured that third quarter we could just dig in, if that's all right. That's kind of what I have planned, is we'll just sit back together, rewatch the third quarter at the end of this podcast. I'll talk you through it. I'll be aware that the majority of people out there are on audio. I'm aware of that. That's funny. I just got an email. The stutter you got right there was I just got an email from someone who quickly typed something to me, and they implemented the I in the O of shots. And since it's a fairly high-level person, it makes it funny. Okay, let's get our pin across the world. By the way, I love saying hi to people. I sent an email. I owe a guy an apology. He sent me an email before. I wanted to take a picture. I met him. Didn't realize that's what he wanted. And he didn't get the picture. I feel terrible because we got one trip to Indiana, so that sucks. I'm in a nice family from Utah. Love saying hi to the fans on the road. And I think I'm going to bring back my Jazz fans on the road feature on Instagram. So make sure you stop by and say hi if you get a chance. I'm nuts. I'm crazy before a game. I'm stressed after a game. Realize that, but please say hi. All right, let's get our pin across the world. It's coming to you from Melbourne, Australia. I've actually been a Jazz fan since I was a kid in late 80s, early 90s. I was almost certain at that point. The only one in Australia, says Cameron Walker. Mark Eaton and Karl Malone, my favorite players back then, was stoked when the Jazz retired Eaton's jersey. It was great fun to watch Rudy become such a shot-blocking monster in the middle. In another link, I actually met Dante's father, Cecil, once, disturbingly probably before Dante was born, when he ran a basketball clinic at my school in 1990-91. Cecil was 6'7", small forward, played for the Melbourne Tigers. Anyhow, really appreciate your dedication. Tip-off, I've been listening since the start of the season. I've never understood the team or the NBA as much as I have. Thanks to you, what I've learned listening to you, really appreciate you keeping it up. Thank you. Hate to be that guy. No, my pronunciation sucked. Tell me. G-Long, I keep pronouncing it, is actually, no, it's pronounced G-Long, not G-Long. All right, G-Long. All right, thank you. So that's from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks for that pin, Cameron. Appreciate it. Send them to me at DLock09, where you're listening in your backstory that made you a Jazz fan. DLock09 at gmail.com. All right, let's dig into the NBA 5. Wow, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. Big picture question I've got for everybody. So Steph Curry drops 40 on the first night. I just posted this on my Locked On Sports Facebook if anybody wants to make a comment on this. Steph Curry dropped 40 the first game, 53 the second. By the way, the key to all this is the 9 assists. When Michael Jordan ran the triangle and was the best player in the world and nobody could beat the Bulls, nobody adopted the triangle because they knew Jordan was the best player in the world. Steph Curry has scored an absurd 118 points in 99 minutes of playing time. He was the MVP last year. He's absurd. He's superhuman. He's not maybe Jordan-esque in a sense, but he's not like when you're the MVP of the league, you're not that far off. Is there any chance that everyone in this league is trying to adopt a style of basketball based on what the Warriors have done and maybe a little bit what the Spurs have done, which is not replicable unless you have 3 Hall of Famers in the Spurs and the maybe best player in the world right now in Steph Curry? Like I know that LeBron and Durant seemingly are the only guys that get to be talked about as the best players in the world. We got to include Steph in this conversation now. Yeah, he's the MVP. It wasn't a fluke. Steve Nash was the best player in the world for 2 years. Steph's doing the same thing. Right? So we suddenly everyone's adopting this system. It's the Mike D'Antoni system back that worked really well. Worked with Steve Nash. Dominated with Steve Nash. Dominates with Steph Curry. Was great with the Spurs run some variations on it, but they have 3 Hall of Famers. Don't kid yourself. Gosh, I watched Manu last night. He is still great. He just makes every play imaginable. Every little thing, does everything right. He's just terrific. He's the ultimate example. You feel like you'd roll him out there in a wheelchair at 45 years old, and he'd still make the right play. Just a thought. The league, you watch the league right now, everyone's playing the exact same. Boston's trying to play it. They have not a single playmaker on their team. They didn't look great last night. And Isaiah Thomas, I know everyone's in love with him, and he's a great numbers guy, but boy, sure makes everybody else sit around and watch a lot. I don't know, just a thought. That's what I share with you on this program. I share thoughts. I'm not sure they're always right. Just an idea. Sometimes they're stupid, but this one, keep an eye on it. That everyone's trying to adopt something that the Warriors have done, and the Warriors have Steph Curry. Right? Steph Curry's the difference. The reason the Warriors won the title and are unstoppable is Steph Curry. Don't kid yourself. I got it. Draymond's good. Defensively, they didn't. Steph Curry. The reason Jordan and the Bulls. Jordan. I don't know. Tom Nasalki and I used to always play this game. If you put Jordan on the other 29 teams, how many games would they win? I'm not sure where if we're at that point with Steph yet. And that's why everyone still believes it's the system as much as it is Steph. Every time you read an article about Steph, you hear about the system. Might want to back off on that. Might just be Steph. Let's keep an eye on it. A few other notes. I watched a bunch yesterday. You were all watching football. I actually did watch the World Series as a former college baseball player. I sat down and actually watched baseball and really enjoyed it last night. Now it's gone. I just watched almost none. Kobe looks awful. Kobe's maybe appropriately, and maybe this is the essence of Kobe, is that Kobe's last chapter may turn out to be the worst last chapter of any superstar in the history of the game. And maybe that's appropriate because and it fits really somewhat perfectly to who Kobe is and what his personality is. But this last chapter of Kobe's career, which if this season, in fact, is it, if that game against the Jazz at the end of the year is, in fact, his final game, is looking brutal. This should be, I know he had the leg bruise in the preseason. This should be the freshest he's going to be all year. And he's awful. 3 of 15 last night, 2 of 8 from 3. He scored 15 points. He is shooting 31% from the field, 21% from 3. It's worth noting, by the way, he's never come back from the Achilles. There's an age game going on now, right? He's 37 years old. He's played 20 seasons. He's never recovered from the Achilles. You just don't. Most guys don't. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Wesley. It's still generally a death sentence in this league. Wesley is forcing his way back. doing awesome things to be back. I admire him immensely. He's taken 12 of his 17 shots from behind the arc. Might not have any explosion. We'll see. I watched Miami, and now, in fairness, I watched Miami in the first quarter. They looked good. I left, and I think I did some other things in the second. Came back and watched the third and the fourth. They outscored Houston 65-26 in the second half. 65-26. That makes what we did to Indiana look really subtle. I like Miami a lot. I like their bench, which I didn't think. Their starters, everyone has kind of agreed are good. Their spacing issue does not seem nearly as significant as everybody to me. Now, maybe Houston's defense wasn't good. You have an interesting thing. You have Dang and Wade who aren't going to shoot threes, though Wade took 3 the other night, and Dragic actually hasn't taken threes. Then you have Whiteside as your center, and Bosch is basically playing on the outside, but he can still punish you on the inside. I don't know. I really like this team. I think they could be. They mustered up 22 threes the other night. That's, you know what? 22 threes out of 86 shots. They're 25%. That's where you need to be. That's about what the league average is. They found a way to do it despite what everyone's worried about with their roster. To me, that's pretty good. 3-pointers, by the way. 26.7% of all shots right now are 3-pointers. Woo-hoo. Your Utah Jazz. It says are at 23.9. That feels wrong. But I'll have to check it. Those numbers seem funky. I'll have to check it. Interesting thing going on, by the way, in the league right now. Very, very, very small sample size, but interesting thing going on in the league right now. And that is that last year, 59% of NBA shots were smart shots. Threes are restricted area. And this year, only 48.4 shots have been, which is a crazy 11% drop. 59% of all shots were threes from the restricted area. This year, only 48.4% has been. That leads me. I think it's a small sample size, but something's going on there. It's too big a range for nothing to be there. Milwaukee is 0-3. And if you've listened to this show, you know I have not been a Milwaukee guy this whole time. The Bucks were 30-23 when they traded Brandon Knight for Michael Carter-Williams. They are 11-21 since. 11-21 since. Not sure why everyone's so in love with that team. Honestly, I actually think they and us, and we may turn out to be true, but here's a thought I have for you. It's kind of a weird thought for you. I actually think that Milwaukee and Utah became the in vogue fall in love with teams because nobody watches them. We have neat names. We have players that look like they should be pretty good. Our statistics are good defensively, but nobody really digs in and watches us or watches them. And so I'm not sure everybody knows what's really going on. And even more so, that would make sense if you look at the idea of adding Greg Monroe, who may turn out to be a death knell. Karl Anthony Towns plays tonight. I'm going to watch it because they're playing Portland, and we play Portland next. But he had a 28, 14, and 4 night the other night. I said during the draft I thought he'd win the MVP at some point in his career. He's incredible. So it was against Denver. It doesn't have a great front line. So we'll see. All right, let's dig to the Jazz here for a second. I want to watch the third quarter together. Good road trip. We did the road to 45 wins earlier this year on what it takes to win 45 games. We're +1 now. Okay, so we're now, if everything else goes, you're +1. We're playing with 1 in the bank if you're trying to get to 45 wins. For those of you who missed that, I'll pull it up sometime this week and we'll look at it. you basically just, regardless of who you play, when they play, you just look at teams and say, okay, we're playing Oklahoma City. They're great. We got to get 1 out of 4 against them. I see the questions, Billy Murphy. I see the questions. Anybody wants to? We've got a good viewership audience as we're going to dig into the third quarter here. I do see the questions, so feel free to dig in. All right, let's see if we can share the screen and get to this game and see if it's working. Billy Murphy, since you are, I saw your question. I'm going to start playing this. You have a black screen right now, which has me very nervous. So tell me through the question thing whether or not you're getting this or not. And I might be overloading the video. I don't think you're getting it. Billy, tell me on the, I'm getting it. I have it running, but I brought it up through a different, I downloaded it onto the computer and then played it today in a through a video player that's, oh, you got it. Sweet, right? You have it, don't you? I can now see it. All right. I've turned off Chris Denari and Quinn Buckner, but they highlighted Boone, by the way. They opened their whole second half broadcast by focusing on Booner, who is just incredible. And I hope you guys listen to the broadcast. He is really dug into advanced stats. He is in. I exposed him to synergy on the plane flight the other day. He now wants screenshots of like every player's synergy stuff before games. That's good. All right. Billy says he doesn't see anything. Is he the only one on the questions? Well, I'm going to do an audio version. This is what I have planned. Hopefully it's working. It's working on my screen. So hopefully you guys are going to get it as well. And if not, I'm going to do an audio version that makes sense. And it's going to lead us into a conversation about all the things the Jazz are doing well. So I'm going to just kind of talk through this. So here's the opening possession of the third quarter. And this is the first thing that Favors has done so well throughout this early part. And he got switched on to Reggie Jackson a bunch of times in Detroit and stymied him. Here, he's being told to guard CJ Miles, it's not a great drive. CJ tries to drive on Favors, and he can't do it. And here you have Favors and Gobert, whose rebounding was just incredible in this ballgame. Offensively, are pretty good, too. This is one of our opening plays that we run a good deal. That was the first day of camp, and you see Favors now is posting. We're going to go get it downloaded, Derek. We're going old school, bigger, stronger, more powerful, humiliate you a little bit. And D Faves, who's obviously been brilliant, just runs through that right there. Okay, back into the defense. Here it is again. Favors forced to defend at 20 feet. This is what makes the Jazz an elite defensive team, is the fact that Derek, as a full-size power forward, is going to be able to do this. Beautiful, beautiful defense here. Switch by Neto out on Paul George to cut off his thing and what that was, by the way, that was not a switch. That's a hard hedge and then to stay attached. So the defense here is they're going to play, and they went through this and shoot around in the ballroom. So this is a 1, in this case 3. So point guard, small forward, pick and roll. A lot of teams switch this. That's probably what they wanted, because then you would have had Neto on George. The Jazz instead played a hard hedge, which means Neto has to come out, really slow up the ball handler, and then they get back on their men. So you see it here. Neto hard hedges, really stymies him. Hayward tells him, I'm back. Now Paul George tries to bogart Hayward, and he defends him as well as you can imagine. That's as good a defensive game by Gordon Hayward as I've seen. Ron Boone said to me on the plane afterwards that it was as good a defensive effort as he's seen. Offensively, he certainly struggled a little bit because Paul George, third-team all-defensive player, gave him a hard time. But defensively, the effort he put out there was elite-level, big-time defensive effort, and his athleticism is not that inferior to Paul George. His length is a little bit, and that's what impacted him on the offensive end. Jazz run good stuff out of an inbound plays. Here's a pin down to Hood. They deny it, so they roll quickly into their second action, which is a pick and roll with a flip. Neto gets into the lane, and Howell misses this. Howell has hit one field goal inside the three-point line, but that's good execution. Transition defense, look at that. Look at that right there. 5 guys all back. Indiana wants to run. They ran in the first quarter. They got out, and the Jazz have a Paul George is going nowhere. Your job on this team is get back, free throw line extended to your wall. Neto's probably got a higher pickup level. Build that defensive wall and then go mark up. And the Jazz do it. Again, here's a chance for isolation. Pick and roll. This time the Jazz just switch it. Here's a dribble handoff. And this is actually a really subtle. This is how well the Jazz are playing defensively. Gordon Hayward's defense here is the key of all things. Hayward's over here on the right side of the floor. They pass down on a pin down to Hill, but look where Gordon is. Gordon Hayward's presence and Gobert dropping off. You've got a trailing guy in the back, but Hayward digging in that far off C.J. Miles with an effort still to get back means George Hill can't penetrate. Instead, you get a mid-range jump shot. He misses it. The defense that we're watching here in this third quarter is what gives the Jazz a chance to be elite. This is special, special stuff. Basic offensive set. Favors in on the post. Okay, the floor spacing's not great. Look at what Indiana's able to do. This is a problem that we have as an offensive team, and it doesn't matter when you're Derek Favors and you're that good, though that ball was blocked by Mahimi inside the rim. But you can see the floor spacing is still a little bit of an issue, and it's going to be as long as we have Gobert there and Favors. But and frankly, Rodney's got to make his threes, as does Gordon, and Neto has done so far. I love this. Just, you know what? Fine. Go make a play. Gobert, play with a little confidence, make a play. He goes and gets himself 2 free throws, makes them both. Now it's Jazz are within 4. Here's what's telling to me at this point of this game. And we'll go to timeout. It's what I said on the broadcast. I think the Pacers outplay the Jazz for the first 24 minutes of this game entirely. The Jazz have outplayed the Pacers for 2 minutes. It's a 4-point game. Okay. Great job by Neto. Not sure whether he's supposed to shoot the gap or go around the backside on that on George Hill. Hill's one of the best catch and shoot guys, but he stays. The key here is, let's go back to this. Here's the key. Oops, I went too far. The key here on what Neto's doing is watch Neto's, and this is where Trey really improved as the night went on. Watch Neto as he reconnects with him with his right arm is up on George Hill right there, and he's still attached to him. Mahimi takes a poor shot. Gobert's out there. 3 guys in the rebound, and now let's go. So that's good. Forced to pass out. Gobert's wing presence, paint presence causes that a little bit. Jazz run into nice motion, pick and roll. Neto actually misses, Favors, and finds Gobert. But Gobert traveled. He shouldn't have. But this is actually a pretty interesting set that worked here. It turned out you've got Hood and Hayward on the far side. Neto comes off the pick and roll with Derek with an open right side of the floor. So Derek, with some nice footwork, opens up. Gobert's waiting on the left side. It's 3-on-3, but if Neto can beat his guy, now if either Favors or Gobert's man commits to Neto, then you've got yourself a slam dunk from either Favors or Gobert. It's a nice play. Hopefully we'll see it again. Rudy just happened to travel. It's funny to see all these scores on the bottom of the game, and you know how the craziness of all these games end at some point. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I hope you're enjoying it. It's a little different than what we usually do, and if you're on audio, I hope I'm making this seem reasonable. So Monte Ellis comes to the front court, and they've got the elbows set. So they've got a big on each elbow, and the Jazz it's a bad pass, but there's also a little bit more to it, right? Ellis, I don't love Monte, and he's only been good under Rick Carlisle. But if you watch right here, look at where Favors is. Favors is up above. That's where he wants to take that pass. Favors has suddenly taken that passing lane away to Paul. Looks like that might be CJ. To CJ at the right elbow. That's what Monte wants. He's taken that away, and then he just gets forced into a really bad pass. Jazz run an actually well-executed fast break. Gobert gets some more free throws. We don't always run the well-executed fast break. That's what I was pointing out. Okay, so here we go. Now, the key here, by the way, is you don't have to get back in transition. Your offense is scoring enough. You're in a half-court set. They run a high pick and roll. Gobert's in lane. You got to kick out. Neto closes beautifully, keeping him to the baseline. You want to keep him on that side of the floor. It's going to be a dribble handoff. Neto denies the dribble handoff, ring around the posy, and then Indiana bails on their offense. This is a problem playing fast, by the way. When your edict is to play fast all the time, like Indiana's is, when you suddenly don't get your offensive set and we blow you up out of your first few plays, then you end up rushing everything you're doing. And if you're playing fast and not moving the ball, guys aren't getting touches, and you start to lose some effort. I'm backing this up because this is just a nice play by Rudy. This is a 7-2 guy making a play with a ball. He drives, he gets stopped. It's very basic. I'm not quite sure why Monte Ellis decides to, or it's not Monte, who is it? Paul George, leave and go down like that. It was kind of ridiculous. Leave Gordon wide open for an angle left 3, and the Jazz are on a 10-0 scoring run, have suddenly dominated 3 minutes of the game and lead. Right? Like, that's pretty fabulous. We could stop there. We've seen enough, but why would we want to do that? Because this is fun. We were really good right now. So let's keep watching this for a few more minutes. This is actually a place that we run. Cross, again, getting to the elbow, and this is huge. These are the things the Jazz are doing defensively. They're changing angles. So much of the Jazz deny action is not for steals, but it's just to change the action. So Neto, by pressuring right there. Now the play here is 2 guys at the elbow. They want to get the ball to Mahimi, and Gobert just busts out of the passing lane, knocks it around, and now Mahimi is running the offense from outside the 3-point line instead of a step off the elbow. The elbow is the free throw line extended, and everything's discombobulated. CJ's right side, pick and roll, just a terrible shot. And this is Indiana just melting down. This is the Jazz asserting the pressure, making it hard to play, knocking you off your spots, and they're supposed to play fast. And once you do that to these teams, they're supposed to play fast. Suddenly they don't have anything. Beautiful use of Favors and Gobert here. Hayward comes around left to right on a pick and roll. Now Derek posts up on CJ and lights out. Plus a foul. I love this. This, to me, is what really good modern offense is. The old offense is you sent your big guy down to the post. He just stood there. You sent a cross screen for him. This is what I love about new modern offense. Favors, dribble a handoff, action. Look at him. He is in the post without contact, getting in the post while other action's going on. And he suddenly is posting up and driving his man out of the post. Either the guy trails him off that action. He dribble handoff far left side. I'm trying to make it worthwhile if you're on audio. Favors dribble handoff far left side, and he comes around the baseline. Now, if the guy hedges out for 1 second on the dribble handoff, he's detached from Favors. So now Favors can go get in the far side block without any contact and hold his ground. He's big enough. If the guy kind of cheats like CJ does here and play the top side, Favors drives him out for it over the top. And if he just trails him, Favors just pins him on the glass with a seal. It's the post game still exists in this league, and these are, but it exists differently with action, and that's how you do it. Now, Indiana. This is also what I loved about the night. Indiana's now on the ropes. Jazz are up 3. They've outplayed them. They're losing, and now we're just going to start out hustling for balls. Gobert knocks it around. Jazz have it. That's Rudy's impact. Hayward jumps in the lane, drives, doesn't get it. We're going to tip it around, battle for it. Okay, nothing's easy if you're Indiana. We didn't score there, but nothing's easy. And look at the transition wall. Unbelievably good. Paul George on the push, 4 guys back defensively on the transition wall by the Jazz. This is elite level defense. Favors is at the top of that wall. Gobert is covering the paint. With Monte Ellis, a pretty good shooter over here. Neto is executing his first job first, which is to stop the ball in transition. And Paul George actually pretty selfishly slows everything up right there. That's not good by Paul George. Quick pass out to Ellis they could have driven. Instead, they're going to go into some sort of pick and roll. And Favors overplays, but there's Derek overplaying the deny. But the point of that deny, by the way, with Derek, had he just let off, is Paul George was going to catch the ball outside the 3-point line with no place to go. You get them those 2 steps off their spot, it changes everything. It's a huge aspect. Okay, pick and roll off a nice inbound play. Hayward's trailing. Gobert is shadowing beautifully. Favors is in the middle of the lane. Rodney has cut off the driving lane by coming over to the nail here. And Monte Ellis' man, this is, again, just right out of an inbound. Such good defense, leading for nothing but a mid-range pull-up jumper by Paul George. Jazz on the push. Rodney gets called for an offensive foul, which I didn't like at the time. I spun around upset. The defensive wall, the defensive positioning that Quinn Snyder is putting in. That's the first time I saw that reaction by Quinn on this broadcast. So I guess I now know that Quinn agreed with me. This is elite level stuff. Hey, great players. Kevin Durant, some of the best players. They're going to pull up. They're going to hit those shots. And then you have to figure out if you're disciplined enough to hold it together. Okay, same thing here. Now, this is an interesting set by the Pacers. They have 1 high in Monte, 4 lifted. So there's driving lanes here. You can see Rudy's got his head on a swivel. Derek's got a tough job trying to stay out. Tries to drive. That, by Neto, is about as good a defense as you can have. Stays chest on him, keeps him the baseline, kept him off an angle, and as I talked about earlier with Neto, stayed attached. That's the key defensively. Stayed attached, stayed connected to the guy making contact. Really superb. Jazz are going to start running away with this game here. Into our offensive sets. We've all seen them. Now there's some nice action right here. Derek Favors grabs at the elbow. Fake dribble handoff to Hayward. This side is open on the floor. Favors comfortable with the ball. Flings it out to Howell. Howell drives, gets himself in a little trouble. He'll start to make that shot at some point. That's the shot. That's Indiana playing pretty good defense, by the way. That's Indiana. You know, they played this pretty well. He gets over to Neto here. They want to force him to the baseline. He goes that way. There's not a lot of other stuff for him. They clog the middle. Probably the pass is a throw out to Hayward, but the Jazz get the offensive rebound because now the Jazz are just working. Gordon coming off the flip. Nice work with Rudy. Finds Rudy on the roll for a dunk. That is such good basketball by Gordon Hayward. And Gordon knows, by the way this play is run, there might have even been a signal if we watch Gordon closely here because they have this communication. Gordon knows right now that he is going to go right and come back left. Key to this play, watch Derek Favors. Derek Favors leaves the area, takes his man with him, allows Rudy a straight line to the basket. That's Derek and Rudy understanding each other, working together, moving together so that you can have that happen. Pacers trying to play fast and now just totally discombobulated. Totally discombobulated. All right, we're going to end this here in a second because I've actually got to run and get some places today. George Hill drives into Gobert. But what's interesting is this hasn't been Rudy dominating shot blocking. This is Rudy's presence. Jazz digging at everything. Paul George having problems. Monte forced into a pull-up jumper, and he hits. Fine. That's just a tough look. Fine. You want to hit that one? You can go hit that one. Good players will make shots in this league. Okay. Get the early action, high pick and roll. Hayward space to the right side. Make them make some decisions here. Rodney comes off the pick, swirls back, flips the court on him. Little loses control. And we just battle again for the rebound. Everything's tough. Well, they're small. We're going to play small. We're the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the league. We're going to just make it miserably difficult for you. Okay, half-court set. Again, Favors out at 20 feet or long. Fine. Good defense. And there's Gobert sending Mahimi into the second row. Trick or treat. Trick! Get out of here. I think that's probably a good spot to end. Really good spot to end because I have a 10 o'clock doctor's appointment I got to get to. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope that was worth your time. It's where we're playing very, very well. I thought Gordon's defense was unbelievable. The team defense is great. It's Quinn getting these guys' habits. Indiana's got some issues. You know, it's going to be hard. We have to try to do that against Oklahoma City, the Clippers, New Orleans, Golden State, teams like that. It gets harder because these guys make plays. But the premise is there. Some of the numbers right now are silly. We'll see how long they last. But Indiana was very encouraging. Indiana made you believe some of the second half stuff was true. Tickets for opening night are available and Saturday against Memphis. Join us for all those things. See you.